So in the previous video, I covered a method for creating a spirit vessel or a spirit pot for an Olympic familiar. And in this video, I'm going to go into how to care for that pot and what to do with that pot once you've got it. So the first thing to understand about a spirit pot or the spirit vessel in the way that I'm presenting it here is that that pot is a way to relate more directly to the spirit, which means we will be treating the pot like it is the spirit. So for all intents and purposes, you have to behave in a way that shows that you respect that spirit is actually physically present wherever that pot is, because that is the purpose of a vessel like that in the way that I'm sharing on this channel. It is a way basically to materialize the spirit and to create a locus of power. In this way, you can better relate to the spirit, and the spirit's influence and the way it works in your life and the way it impacts you, therefore, is much stronger. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. You have to behave like the spirit is really there, because it is. If the procedure was successful, that spirit will now have been instantiated there. It will have been physicalized there. It will have been materialized there to some degree, so that you can work more easily with it, and that you can communicate with it more easily and use its abilities more effectively, right? And so this is a double-edged sword. It requires a lot of respect and discipline and conscientiousness and caution when interacting with this pot. So you basically just have to keep in mind that this is the spirit. Treat it as if the pot is the spirit, as if it's standing there right in front of you. That means the location for the pot, what you do, how you behave in front of the pot, all these things are going to be critical to how well you can handle and control the spirit, because it is a relationship of mutual respect. So for this reason, the first thing to consider is the location. Where will you put this pot? First off, it should not be in your bedroom where you sleep, right? There are a couple of reasons for it. Firstly, the first reason is the bedroom is where you get undressed. The bedroom is where you have your intimate life, your private life, and you don't want to be doing that in front of an honored guest, right? That would be a very disrespectful gesture in ancient cultures, and make no mistake, these spirits descend from ancient cultures. They have a classical ancient mindset, so you're gonna treat it with respect. So therefore, no, it cannot really be kept in the bedroom. And then the second part of that is that if you keep it in the bedroom, it will probably disturb your sleep. Spirits are very active at night, and for certain kinds of people, that isn't a good idea. They will begin to kind of bleed into your sleep life, and you need a boundary. You need some sort of space where your private life and your work with the spirit world are separated. So that is a very important thing to keep in mind for this kind of thing. If you don't have space like this and for that, and you have to do it in your bedroom, then don't do it. That's the answer. You cannot keep something of this sort in your bedroom. It's not a good idea. If you don't have space for whatever reason to have it in another room, better not to construct a pot like this and to break down those boundaries. That's the bottom line, right? Then the second step, once we've got that out of the way, is you want somewhere private, somewhere clean, somewhere sacred. It needs to be on a clean shrine-like table, maybe covered with an altar cloth. It needs to be in a place where the other participants in your household will leave it undisturbed. It needs to be, of course, somewhere that has been spiritually cleansed and it is physically clean. You can't have it in some dirty room or in the basement or in the attic where there's a whole bunch of junk, because this kind of disruption and dirtiness from the environment will now impact that relationship with that spirit. So you want it to be clean, you want it to be serene, you want it to be sacred, somewhere special. Preferably you will have a room where you do your magical work, and assumedly you will have various magical implements and so on set aside. That is kind of the ideal situation. Otherwise, you want to find somewhere in the house where it can be treated with respect. So that's the first thing. You can, of course, decorate that altar with a cloth corresponding to the planet ruling that Olympic familiar spirit. You might adorn it with some altar candles of the same color. And then this is going to be sort of the focal place of working with this spirit. Now, the first thing that a lot of people have asked me about is offerings to the spirit, and is this where you would do offerings? And yes, indeed, this is kind of the principal point of contact, and the intention for a spirit pot like this is that this is indeed where you will be giving it various foods and such in order to strengthen that contact and make it something mutually beneficial. And to that end, we need to discuss what is the purpose of offerings for a spiritual being like that. And of course, there is this aspect of I guess devotion, of showing your allegiance, that you are friendly, that you're in a kind of a reciprocal relationship. So that's one aspect. But a more sort of subtle technical point is that spirits need to have energy in order to do things in your life. Physical things require energy. Like we eat food, spirits also require food and energy in order to perform tasks, especially if we are asking them to change things in our material environment, which is to say, rearrange the material world. That requires a lot of energy from a spirit. Of being nice and a sort of a devotional thing. It's really a kind of a way of creating an energetic supply so that spirit can then work for you. Now, having said that, some caution needs to be applied, and you need to, when you are making offerings to a spirit of this sort, that you're following some rules. And the first rule, of course, should be to follow the correspondences connected to that spirit. And because the Olympic spirits and their familiars are planetary, very much planetary, we're quite lucky in that there is already a received body of correspondences, astrological correspondences that have been handed down in the Western tradition for the kinds of things that are connected to those planets. So those should be the first ports of call when we are making offerings to the spirits. We should follow their planetary correspondence. And this means, for example, that if you are working with a lunar spirit, a moon spirit, then you might offer watermelon or cucumber. Those are things connected to the moon. We need to talk about the frequency, right? And the first thing that I want to say is don't overdo it. Yeah. Don't just lavish the spirit pot with food and so on. You need to be a little bit, how shall we say, controlled with how you do it. So you might want to do it sort of on an exchange basis, where you ask it to do something for you, and then as a thanks you give it. And then once that relationship is sort of, as you've got a good sort of reciprocal thing going, then you might do something like a more regular offering where you're giving a certain kind of food stuff, maybe once a month, that sort of thing. I would say keep your commitments modest. Don't go crazy, and certainly don't over do it. Don't think that, oh, if I, just go crazy and just chuck loads of food there, uh, even if it is of the planetary correspondence, that this is going to be, that they're going to like me more. That might not necessarily be the case. You need to kind of have a balanced approach as to how much offerings you're making and that sort of thing, so that they don't get kind of spoiled. And spirits of this sort definitely can get quote unquote spoiled. That is, if you give them a lot of stuff and you know they come to expect it, then they might not be as active to do things for you, right? So you want to kind of use it as a fuel source, right? As a way to activate that energy. And that's really a good way to look at it. Offerings are a way to activate the spirit's energy, or to reward the spirit's energy for doing something for you. And it should be kind of approached with that in mind, right? So they're not, spirits aren't dogs, they're not pets, they're not lovers, they're not friends. When you can, with time, develop admiration, respect, even fondness for a spirit, if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. But there should definitely be, how shall we say, a clear boundary, a clear sort of mutual respect for how this relationship is run. And it shouldn't be just one of basically trying to spoil the spirit with as much stuff in order to get its affection. But of course, you can offer candles of colored correspondence. In fact, those are often a good choice just in general, maybe as a weekly offering, to offer a candle of a colored correspondence to the planet. Fire tends to be a good way to go, because spirits really respond to flame and fire, because flame and fire has a very primordial kind of ancient connection going all the way back to sort of the early human spirit kind of interaction. There were sacrificial fires, lamps, and these kinds of things. So there is a kind of something very primal about offering flame to a spirit that they respond well to, which is why most of the techniques that I share on this channel are very much candle magic based. That flame relationship of the spirit to the flame is something that is very primal, and that has a strong effect. So before you go crazy with sort of foodstuffs and that, consider just offering a candle. You want to start small always. You want to keep it as simple as you can, as manageable as you can, and you only ramp up the offerings and the things that you give based on sort of the scale of the thing that you need done, right? You never go overkill and offer a massive amount of food when a candle will suffice. That's my advice to you. Then of course, incense is another way of working, but for working with the spirit part, I would be very cautious with how much incense I give there, because for some reason burning incense is very much coded to evocation, to having spirits manifest in the magic, outside the magic circle or in the crystal and that's kind of a slightly different paradigm to what we're engaging with here. It's not that you can't do it, but I would save that for when you're doing some more straightforward ritual work, or when you're actively trying to communicate with the spirit, which I will cover in a few moments, right? So it's a good way to sort of activate that energy, especially if you want to initiate some communication. But I wouldn't just do it willy-nilly. It tends to have a strong activating effect, which I think you need to kind of keep that in your arrow in your quiver until you need it. Yeah. So this brings me to my final point, is that you will need a divination tool to work alongside the spirit. And it will be preferably something that can give you a clear yes, no, maybe type response. And there are a lot of tools that sort of fit the bill for this. Um, but whatever it is, it should be something that is just allocated for the use with this spirit. So you want to sort of consecrate it, you want to put it there on their altar or next to their pot, you want to kind of wrap it maybe in a colored cloth and make it something special for just talking to this spirit. And it should be something that you cannot unconsciously influence, right? This is why I don't like um, using, mediumship or clairvoyance or psychic communication with the spirit in this context with the pot, because this can very easily be influenced by your own unconscious mind or your own biases or your own enthusiasm or stupidity, whatever the case may be. You want something, you want a way for it to say no or yes in a very tangible way. And a very simple tool that I can recommend that's very accessible is just to, have a set of tarot cards that you sort of consecrate to the spirit and keep there. And then to work with reversals, 3 cards in a reversal. So you draw 3 cards and ask a yes, no question, clearly worded, of the spirit. And then if you get 3 upright cards, it's a strong yes. 2 upright cards and 1 reversal, it's still a yes, but not like basically a very strong yes. Or you could have 2 reversals, which is a no, or 3 reversals, which is a strong no or a warning, right? And then of course you could also interpret the imagery on the cards if you want to get fancy, but that's not always really that important. We're just working with the yes, no here. And the reason that you want this is that you will want to check, with the spirit, certain things. Now, for example, there are the standard offerings that I've just sort of suggested here based on the planetary correspondences, but a spirit might have something else that it wants. There might be, a particular thing that it likes, right? And or you might get a dream or an intuition that there's some other thing that you could offer here. Maybe it's a kind of candy. It could be alcohol. It could be something like that. Then you will want a tool like this to check, right? Or it could be other reasons of divining and communicating with the spirit. Then you'll want a tool like this. Then I suggest a bit of incense to activate that spirit, again of its planetary correspondence. Wake it up, then respectfully address it, ask it your question, and then lay down 3 cards to see if it's a yes or no, or a strong yes, which is like with a blessing, or a warning, right? Then and this kind of clarity is very, very helpful. It will remove a lot of the confusion and ambiguity and doubt that can come into this kind of work, right? Because you've asked it and it said yes. Great. So you can now be confident that this thing that you want to do, you've gotten a yes for, and that, this is the right way and this is what the spirit wants. It's not some sort of figment of your imagination or some sort of whim that's come over you, which is very easy to slip into this. So it's a way of preserving clarity. Another thing that I want to sort of add here is that fruits and foods are always, of course, a good way to go. You might want to experiment with giving various kinds of alcohol and so on that are of planetary correspondence. There's not much in the tradition about that in the traditional sources, but books like Planetary Magic by Denning and Phillips, and of course Christopher Warnock's books, and of course Agrippa. These are all going to be good places to look for inspiration with that kind of thing. But what I want to add here is never ever give one of these spirit pots your own blood or any blood whatsoever. I don't care what you hear online. I don't care what anyone says to you. I don't care if the spirit appears in a dream and tells you to do that. I don't care if you saw a sign in the sky in rainbow colors suggesting that you should feed it your own blood. Never, ever, ever feed it your own blood or any blood whatsoever, right? So sacrificial offerings and these kinds of things are really the domain of the priesthood in the African diasporic religions, and who have been trained how to do that, and not in only the technical aspects of that, which is of course its own thing, but also in the spiritual aspects of dealing with that energy without harm. They have something, what in Afro-Cuban religion is called the license, which is to say the permission from the spirits to do that, right? You need permission. That means, that it's a specialized technical ability, right? Putting aside for the moment that it's also part of a living tradition that's sort of been handed down, which doesn't exist in the Western magical tradition. So just stick to regular food offerings, candles, fruits, flowers. You could do money, you could do alcohol, you could do incense. You could also, of course, buy physical gifts, right? You might buy your Mars spirit might request a railroad spike, yeah, big piece of iron, or a sword, very martial. It might say, I'll do this thing if you give me a sword, and then you can put a beautiful sword on its altar, right? Now it's very happy it's gotten a sword. There is a lot of creative stuff you can do that doesn't involve blood, and certainly animal offerings, but never ever give your own blood, prick your finger, and so on. This is a really dangerous, stupid idea with the spirit, because to put it bluntly, once it tastes that blood, it's going to want more, and it will give you reasons to bleed, physically and spiritually. So you might start having accidents to bleed more. That's one aspect. Or you might get sick as it starts draining your life force, because now you've basically said to it, here, eat me, right? Never do that. You are not an edible. Human beings are not spirit food, right? So it might seem like, oh, I'll just get prick my finger and bleed on the pot, and never do that. This is an extremely stupid idea, and it will cause you endless problems. You will become ill, you will suffer misfortunes, accidents, or worse, you could get sick and die. The spirit will, these spirits are great allies, but terrible masters. Yeah, you have to be in control of the relationship. You have to be cautious. You have to be strong, wise. You've got to show your mastery in the situation, right? And this, of course, includes not doing foolish things. This would definitely fall in that category. We treat spirits with respect. We build mutually beneficial relationships, especially within the Western magical tradition, which is a different animal to the African traditions, which work through initiation, where an elder basically consecrates something and connects you to the living current of spiritual energy of which they're already a part. This is not the same thing. We are basically calling in a power, foreign energy, of which we know very little, and brokering a new relationship. We're creating a new kind of thing. That means negotiating this thing, and the spirit will test you. The spirit is, better to consider it to be kind of like a horse or a dog or a feral animal if it's a dangerous spirit, like a tiger or a lion, right? You can think of this situation with lion keepers, what happens to lion keepers or tiger keepers when something goes amiss. The tiger eats them. And the same thing with horses. If you've ever been involved with horse riding, horses know who they can respect, who is a trained rider, who is a strong rider, and who is a inexperienced rider, and they will take control of the situation based on your experience level, which they can sense. How much more so now for a spirit, which has got access to information and has abilities and such that are really beyond what you can sort of conceive of logically. So you want to really stay in control of that relationship as much as possible. And in the beginning, you want to be very cautious, and you don't want to go overboard with any part of this venture, which includes the offerings, which includes how you relate to the spirit, what you ask of it, what it does for you. You've got to really very gradually build up this relationship of mutual respect and trust. And then if you do this very patiently, very slowly, over time, then hopefully this can develop into a very beneficial and mutually rewarding um, relationship, provided you use common sense. Okay, so that's what I have to say on caring for the spirit part. Yeah, remember to like and to subscribe. Leave a comment down below. That helps me. Check out my website for spiritual services. I do readings. I do magical coaching. We've got a candle ministry where we burn Olympic spirit candles, archangel candles, all kinds of candles, Shem angel candles, and various offerings there to help you with from my side in a practical way. Um, uh, you can also check out my book at Scarlet Imprint, The Divine Gypsy Mother, and you can buy me a coffee down below. Check out our Discord. I'll link the Discord down below. We've got a nice little friendly community, good sense of humor, and sensible advice there. So check out our Discord, and see you next time.